Florida-friendly landscaping community connections. This is a new series that I'm going to start. I am Lily Browning. I am the Florida-friendly landscaping program coordinator for Hernando County Utilities. In this community connections series, Florida-friendly landscaping is going to go out in the community and just talk to the different people here in our community and find out how the things they do, how they follow environmentally friendly practices that relates back to Florida-friendly landscaping and also sustainable practices for our state. My first guest is Karen Mojica. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
She is from Hernando County Mosquito Control, and she's going to talk to us about the things that mosquito control does for our county here in Central Florida. As the old saying goes, everybody lives in Florida thanks to air conditioning and mosquito control. This is the other half of what makes our state livable and pleasant. So, and we're just going to have some discussions with Karen about what that all entails. Question number 1. In Florida-friendly landscaping, our principle number 6 is managing pests responsibly. So, and in so doing, we teach what is called integrated pest management, which kind of follows a pyramid, starting with prevention being the widest and biggest thing we do, going up through cultural control, physical and mechanical control, biological control. The very, very last thing we want to even think about is chemical control, and then that is also a very well thought out process using the right chemical for the right problem in the right manner. So my question for you is, does Hernando County Mosquito Control follow integrated pest management? And can you tell us what that means?
I would love to. We follow what we call the integrated mosquito management, which is the same, integrated pest management, because mosquitoes are pests. And we do it the very same way. We have a pyramid. It starts with our surveillance. First, we need to find where our problems are, go through and clean up or maintain what needs to be done. We also use our, we have things that we use. Well, I'll go into those details as we move forward. And then we do our source reduction. We have our biological and chemical and our public outreach. And I did do some slides so that we can break it down each one.
All right.
So our surveillance, we go out, our technicians go out throughout the county and they do trapping. There's a picture here of one of our traps. And we trap our mosquitoes. We identify them, what kinds we're dealing with, what kind of diseases the ones that we have in there carry. We have our chickens out there. Both of these things are strategically placed throughout the county so that we can monitor what's going on through the whole county. Our chickens, what we use those for, we put out each year a new set of clean chickens, and they go out and they get their blood drawn weekly. Because as you aren't familiar with chicken programs, it's done throughout the state, and chickens can let us know when there is a certain kind of mosquito. They will, if they've been bitten by a mosquito that carries a disease, they will build up an antibody. So when you test their blood, it will show that that antibody has been created in their blood system. So that tells us that that mosquito that is carrying that disease is in that area. And it tells us where we need to really focus on the mosquito control in that vicinity more than anywhere else. We test our chickens for West Nile and Triple E. They're done weekly through the Florida College down in Tampa University. And we send these blood samples weekly, and we get that back a couple days later, and it tells us if any of them is showing that antibody. If it does show that it has an antibody, which means it was bit by a mosquito carrying those things, it does not hurt the chicken. It does not pass it to anyone. It's not a danger of any kind. We don't use it anymore because it's no longer a clean sample to start with. So we will distribute that chicken. It'll still lay eggs, and like I said, it's perfectly safe. So those are really good workers for us to know if we're dealing with any problem mosquitoes.
And they work for chicken feed.
Yes, they're very reasonable to work with.
Yeah.
Friendly fellows. And so they're a great source. They're really what most, I think all of the programs in Florida all use the sentinel chickens as a really good detection system. Then we go out and we do landing rate counts. So the guys will go out and see exactly how many mosquitoes are out there and how many are landing within a certain time frame, within a minute, and that kind of tells us too just how many are out there. Sometimes, of course, different times of day, it will be different. We also base a lot of our surveillance and work based on residential service requests. If someone calls in and they're having a lot of mosquitoes, that gives us an opportunity to know where these pockets may be of a problem spot. So we rely on our residents letting us know when there's a mosquito problem at their home. We rely on that to make sure that we are taking care of those individual little areas that may get missed otherwise. And our guys are out there doing field inspections all throughout the county with catch basins and the water bait areas that are out there. So our next stage in our pyramid is our source reduction. If anyone isn't aware, mosquitoes need water in order to breed. They lay their eggs in a water or next to the water, where when that egg hatches, it has to live in water for about 7 days. That larvae, which are those little wigglers that you'll see in the bottom maybe of your flower dish, any water that's left outside, they'll get those little wiggly things. Those are mosquito larvae. It needs water in order to grow to a flying adult. So the most important thing is to eliminate that standing water. So after a rain, the next day or two later, dump all those containers or toys, wheelbarrows, buckets, anything that could possibly be holding water. And as I put on here, even just a cap full of water is enough to make your life miserable. It's enough to hold enough larvae to keep that cycle going. Tires are a really big problem as well, because that water sits in there and it's a really dark environment, and it's kind of like the perfect environment for mosquitoes. So this is where our home residents' help is needed most, is to make sure that water's dumped. I had just read a thing yesterday. It was quite interesting that when you kill a mosquito, you've eliminated 1,000. That one mosquito will produce about 1,000. So it's it really does help. So from there, once we take care of eliminating the water, we use our first course of action beyond that is our biological control. We do have a lot of water. We have a lot of lakes, standing water, swampy areas. So we use our mosquito fish for our #1 source, which are great workers. They work probably harder than the chickens do. And we put them in there. They're local fish. We take them back to our office. We breed them and then redistribute. So if those fish are in the waters, then they will take care of that mosquito larvae. Yeah. Then from there, we also can use a biological larvicide, which is BTI.
BTI.
Yes, and that prevents only the mosquito larvae from hatching. And it won't affect anything else. Birds can still drink the water. You'll find sometimes you even see this sold in the big box stores, the little granules or dunks, they call them. And they're safe for pets or anything else, but they will prevent that larvae from hatching. And they'll use that as well. Our technicians will use that in catch basins, things that maybe are only there for about a week or two, maybe just like a week after the rain, and then it dries up. So it's not really a spot that's good for fish. They'll use that type of thing. And then our very last resort is the spray truck. The spray truck. I think in years ago, that was probably one of the first things they used to do.
I've been here 43 years this month. Wow. So yes, when I was a kid, I remember the mosquito truck driving around just on a weekly basis. I was not one of them
You
riding
didn't
my
chase
bike
it?
behind it. No, I swore
That's a
it
good
chased
thing.
me.
Well, our truck is the last resort, our last course of action. Because at that point, when the truck goes out, you're just out there to kill the ones that have already, they're flying. And it is really hard to get that chemical to land on that flying mosquito. Our most effective way is to treat and take care of it before it gets to that point. We don't just send the truck. It's not a routine scheduled route. In order for us to send out the truck, we need to have the counts of adult mosquitoes that are there. And like I said, and that's monitored by the state. So
You
a
have
lot
to
of,
justify each time
Yes.
that truck goes out.
absolutely. And a lot of times we'll get requests that say we just need the truck. But I try to look at it too, if we're not addressing the problem, just knocking down the ones that are flying aren't, tomorrow there's going to be another 1,000 that have hatched.
Right.
So we really need to find where they're hatching from and address that, which would be in a more natural way as well. Before we-
More sustainable practice. Yes.
Yes, and safer for the environment. Our next thing, what we like to do is go out and make the residents more aware of what they can do to help. And we do that through classes. We go to HOAs and groups and we explain where to look, what to find, a little bit about the mosquito life cycle, how they hatch, where they hatch. And we do a lot out in the local community. I'm sure you may have seen our, well, you've seen our table.
Yes.
Hopefully others have too.
You're usually where I am. Yes. And they have a great big blow up mosquito. Her name
Yes.
is Mo. So you can't miss where they are.
Yes, we
And
try
of
to bring
course,
her everywhere.
During the past year, a lot of these events haven't been going on, but I think they're going to be starting up again.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
National Night Out, October 3rd. Will you be
Oh,
there?
Nice, I will be there.
Okay.
I'll be in Lowe's next week as well,
Oh.
Mosquito Awareness Week.
Okay, on to our second question, and I put some of the workers on this photo too. You already described the chicken program, the Sentinel chicken program. What are some of the other techniques your department utilizes, which maybe some of our residents may not be aware?
Okay, well, we do, like you said, we have the chickens and they're out there working hard for us. They're more of a monitoring basis for us to find, we know where to look or what to treat. The second is our fish, which I went over briefly as well. They will prevent them, they'll eat them. They eat at least 100 a day, each fish. So we do breed them at our office. We collect them. They're in a breeding tank and then we'll redistribute them. So we're not bringing in an environment from somewhere else. We're not.
So they're a
creating-
native fish to
They are a
this
native
area,
fish, yes.
and they just happen to eat mosquitoes. So
Yes.
very useful.
And they eat a lot of it. They like the protein and they breed. They're like a guppy and they do live breed. So they will create more fish. So now we put those into like fish ponds, fountains. A lot of people who have large animal troughs, and the animal trough will work similar to like a shallow pond. When the animal comes to eat, they're going to swim down to the bottom. They're really fast. We also use these in our unmaintained swimming pools. If there's a resident that knows their filter broke or they know they're not going to run their pool for a certain amount
Or
of
there's a
time.
chlorine shortage.
Yeah, it could be
Yes.
that too.
Yes.
We ask that you give us a call. We'll be more than happy to put some fish in there. It will not make the water blue. It's not going to make it look prettier, but there will not be the danger of those mosquitoes breeding and hatching, because that's a large area of water, which could create a large amount of
Okay.
mosquitoes if it's not.
And you did
maintained.
say that's free of charge.
That is free of charge. Our guys are out in the field every day. They're throughout the county. So once you let us know, they carry them in their trucks. So they will bring them to you as they're passing your.
They carry fish around.
They
with them.
do.
See, that was something we didn't know.
They don't have a full supply.
Uh-huh.
So we usually, if there's some place they need to bring a lot, if you have a lake, a pond, sometimes the local ponds and areas, and they've had fish, but then the birds really like them.
Oh, yes.
So when those fish get depleted, we'll restock them.
Very interesting. Yeah. I have a third question for you. This picture just makes us all itchy here. What about, we see advertised quite a bit, all natural products to repel mosquitoes. So
Okay, so I pulled this off of the IFAS page. I thought it
that's
was
the University
interesting.
of Florida.
Yes. And if you read through it, I guess people were using garlic, bananas, vitamin B, and does it repel mosquitoes? So this goes down to there's really no scientific evidence of anything other than like DEET or, the certain products that are scientifically there to repel mosquitoes. But I have gotten so many people that use natural repellents and it works for them. So I never doubt that. Different things will work for different people. So I've gotten things from dryer sheets to Skin So Soft, essential oils. And if you go online and you Google it, you will find there's a lot out there naturally that it works for some. It may not work as long. Sometimes if the DEET works for an hour, the natural may only work for 15 minutes. So you may have to reapply often. But there's nothing out there that really specifically says that scientifically it works. But
I guess you just have to find what works for your body.
Yes,
and
because
in
there
your
are people
circumstances.
that use these things and swear that it definitely works. So I will not argue.
Question 4, are there certain plants out there, since we are Florida Friendly Landscaping, are there certain plants that work in repelling mosquitoes? I've given you a hint plant on this picture.
That's the marigold.
Yes.
Okay. Well, they say there are plants that they say will repel mosquitoes. And I have heard that after time, after they're used to the smell, it doesn't repel them as much. But there are ones that are naturally, I guess, not as appealing to them. And that's like citronella, lemon balm, catnip, marigolds, basil. There is quite a few. And if you Google those, you'll see them too. And I'm sure all of it helps.
But don't rely on it for long-term effects.
Exactly.
Yes.
Apparently, once they get used to the smell of your plant, they still come around.
Okay. Okay, since we talked about doing a repel, are there any plants that specifically attract mosquitoes? Hint, hint at the in this picture as well.
Yes.
So,
I can, bromeliads are really a mosquito haven, I guess you'd say. And a lot of what our technicians go out on a call, if a home is having a problem with mosquitoes, a lot of the time, bromeliads are the reason. They're beautiful flowers, but unfortunately, if you see in the picture on the, I think it's on the right. No, it's
that's
there it is there. That little cup there holds quite a bit of water. And it is the perfect hiding spot for mosquitoes to lay their eggs. So when you have a lot of these plants, you've got a lot of mosquitoes laying a lot of eggs. So you become a haven for mosquito environment. A lot of times we get calls because snowbirds will have these beautiful bromeliad patches in their yards, and then they head up north in the summer months and it becomes terrible for their neighbors.
right.
And of course, I did pull this from the University of Florida. This was their solution on taking care of bromeliads. Of course, removing them is the first. It's sad because they are so beautiful and tropical looking. But they do have that BTI that you can get in the box stores. You could sprinkle that. It's not a long term though. If it's a snowbird, it's not going to last the whole time they're gone. I think it's 30 days. That'll be about it. They say if you don't want to use that, you could flush it out with a hose, but you really have to flush it. And they say be careful that it's not flushing it into the next plant. You've got to get that larvae out of there so that it doesn't continue to thrive.
Okay.
And
Yeah, it is considered a Florida friendly plant as far as not using too many resources. And I think in it's a native, there are native bromeliads, there are non-native ones too. In nature, you're not going to see it growing in mass like we want it to be in our landscape. So that is kind of again, a human caused situation. You're bringing all that water holding capacity together in one place. So the mosquitoes are going to be thrilled with that situation. So if you have them, as she said, keep the BT or BTI chunks or dunks or morsels in there. When you hose it out, yeah, the rain's going to push it out, but also it's going to hold it some more. So it would not be a plant. I actually do teach classes on Florida friendly landscaping for the seasonal resident. Would not be a plant I would recommend for a snowbird, simply because you could be torturing your neighbors when you go back up north. So I think we'll agree to the right way of responsible bromeliad ownership.
Friendly neighbors.
Now, the next question, speaking of water, things that hold water, and all of these things can work in a Florida-friendly landscape, but how does mosquito control relate to them? Bird baths, especially if it looks like this bird bath, ponds, or rain barrels.
Rain barrels are good.
Okay.
There's just a couple things you want to be certain of. So even the best intentions can become breeding sites. And I'll just go over a little bit of each one. So your rain barrel, you don't want it to be like the one on the bottom there. It can't be open. You need
With
that
no lid.
screen.
Right.
And the ones that Lilly has in her classes are perfect. They come with a very tight screen on top. It keeps the mosquitoes from getting in there. You're still able to utilize that water from the bottom without having it become a breeding spot. So as long as, if you're going to have something like it's in this picture, you have to get a tight fitting screen over the top to prevent those mosquitoes from having that environment. Because if you see the water's going in and it's moving, but when it's not being filled, it's still water.
That's a very attractive photo opportunity, but our rain barrels that we offer are much more practical.
Yes.
Yes.
Above that is a drain, which is a great thing. It helps keep the water going onto your grass. We always look for that. But you want to make sure if you do use those, you need to shake them out, because in those little crevices holds water.
Yes, the accordion style.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those can be a little bit of a breeding spot. If you shake out that water after a good rain, you'll prevent it.
Okay. Or try not to get the kind with the accordion.
Yeah, if you know the exact spot, length that you need, you're better off not getting the accordion style for the water holding. Bird baths, of course, are beautiful when they're kept clean. And even if they are clean, those mosquitoes will lay those eggs right on that water edge. They are big mosquito breeding habitats. So if you're going to have a bird bath, just hose it out once a week, twice a week in the summer. Use a little brush, get around the edge, because the eggs will stick to the side. So even if you're hosing it, they'll still hatch the next morning if you don't get that brush and get them out of there. I love the birds.
I got a plastic one, so that what I can do is every few days, it's not heavy and cement like that, so I just dump it.
Okay.
And I planted some new plants right there, so I dump that water right on those new plants. It, kind of multitasking there, and then fill it up with new water. I even heard, I've been saying every 4 or 5 days for mosquito control, but I watched a program from Pinellas County Extension that mentioned you might want to change that water every day for the birds' sake, because birds are pretty dirty, and we all know what slides right through birds all of the time. So, and that will certainly help with your mosquito control as well.
And then the third thing are hand, fountains that are made at home or even installed at home. You may have running water on one side, but the other side, that little stagnant area, that'll collect, mosquitoes will live on that side where it's still water. They don't really live wherever the water's moving, because they need the oxygen from above. So they need to be able to be in that water and breathe from above. Something like that, your solution would be fish. We'd be more than happy to come out, put some fish in there. It'll actually complete your fountain. And they will eat the larvae and probably anything else that may make your water icky. So if you have fountains, larger ones, smaller ones, we'll be more than happy to bring the fish.
Number 7, are mosquitoes only out at night? Obviously not from that picture.
On here, I answered, there's a poster here from University of Florida that shows the varieties of mosquitoes. There are quite a few in the world. There's even
See,
more.
I had always assumed a mosquito was a mosquito was a mosquito.
They're all different. It's really an interesting species. So we have 38 varieties in Hernando County that
Wow.
we see. And the difference is some of them live in the salt marshes. Some of them live in containers. They all have their environment that they tend to go towards. And I took here 2 different varieties that just to kind of compare the difference. The 80s mosquito, they bite all times of the day. They like to breed in small man-made sources like containers. They bite multiple times in one feeding. They're aggressive biters, and they spread diseases like dengue, Zika, chikungunya, and yellow fever. So yeah, they're, as y'all know, it's the female mosquito that does the biting. The male mosquito does not. And
we're not going to allow any comments on that.
And the female does it only because she needs that protein to produce the eggs. That's her job. So she knows that she needs to bite somebody, something, to get that blood meal to produce those eggs. They're born to know that. Now the Culex mosquito, the female does the biting. They bite during the dusk and the dawn. So they're not really out in the middle of the day. They do larger sources with water, maybe swampy areas, bigger areas. They only bite once. As you can see, they average any part of the body that's exposed, and they spread the ones that are more common here, West Nile virus, St. Louis encephalitis, and
Western
equine encephalitis. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, since you brought up the diseases, what should we be concerned about? What diseases in Florida do our mosquitoes spread?
Okay. So our local transmitted is the Eastern equine encephalitis. That's where that the St. Louis encephalitis and the Western equine encephalitis and West Nile. Now our chickens are tested for the West Nile and the Triple E, the Eastern equine encephalitis. They're the ones that are most common. And we get to test our chickens to see if they're ever around. We have had a few counties already this year that have had Triple E positives in their chickens. We had our county to the north in Citrus and our county to the south in Pasco. So it is right around us. However, none of our chickens have tested positive as of yet. It is tested weekly, and if it is a positive tested chicken, we will go heavier with making sure that they're taken care of.
Could you explain this transmission cycle to
Okay,
us?
so the mosquito gets it from the bird, transfers it to either a human or a horse.
Okay.
So once it gets to the human or the horse, it doesn't spread any further from that, but they will get it and pass it bird to chicken. I mean,
so a mosquito. A certain type of mosquito bites a chicken and
not a chicken, a bird.
A bird.
Yes.
Sorry, and infects it, and then a different type of mosquito has to bite that same bird.
Same type of mosquito. It could be any. Yeah.
Okay.
That
Any
same,
mosquito has to bite
the
that
ones that
same
carry
bird
that.
again, and then take it
carry
to a horse or a human, and that is where
it spreads. Yeah.
That's from there. So, but we haven't had any human
no
and incidences
no.
in
Not
the
in
state or in this county? Or?
In this county, I know we have not.
Okay.
Not in quite a few years.
It's mainly a concern for horse owners.
Yes, and there is a vaccine for horse owners, for horses, so, but not for human.
Okay.
So you do want to check with your vet if you want to have that.
Okay. Well, that's what she's referring to when she says Triple E,
Yes.
Eastern
Equine
equine encephalitis.
Right.
Okay.
And we do have 8 varieties of mosquitoes in the county. Out of the 38 that are here, 8 of them are disease carriers of some sort. Doesn't mean they are carrying it, it's they can carry it. So we test those 8 whenever we catch them in either a trap, whatever we're catching them in, we can test them to see if they're carrying it.
So no malaria, yellow fever,
That's-
dengue here in
That's
Hernando?
foreign, yeah. It can be brought to the US, but it's not a local transmitted
Okay.
disease.
And they do not transmit COVID-19?
No, they do not.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next question. I think we kind of covered this a little bit, but it's worth going over. Some of those breeding places that maybe I'll go out in my yard and I won't even think about, that could be a mosquito breeding location.
Yeah, so we've got some pictures that our technicians had gone out. The tree holes are really ones that I would never think to look in a tree hole in your yard. That's maybe something you want to, if you're having mosquitoes, maybe throw some of those dunks in there, some of those granules after a big rain. That toy truck there in someone's yard, last time the kids played on it, it'll hold water in that little tray in the back.
Oh, yes.
Who would have thought to look in there?
Yes.
If you have a spare tire that you don't use anymore, junk tires, bring it to our landfill. They do take 8 a year at no charge. If it's just collecting water in your yard, they're bad mosquito breeding spots.
What about tire swings?
Tire swings, drill a hole in it. Let that water stay out. If it has a hole in the bottom, when it rains, the water will come out and you could still use the tire for a swing.
Okay.
Who doesn't like a tire swing?
Just keep the leaves out of it. That might be plugging up
Yeah,
those holes.
yeah, you want to make sure it's just kept clean and maintained. The gutters, a lot of people don't look up above. And sometimes our technicians will go out, they'll see there's a lot of mosquitoes, they're not finding a spot. So gutters are one of their first spots to check, because we don't always notice when the gutters.
And
are
as you
clogged.
mentioned before, in a soda cap full of water, they can breed. So
if you have like a potato chip bag or a little bit of a soda cap bottle stuck out in the corner of your yard, that's enough to get them breeding. And then from there, they just keep finding more and more.
Pockets in tarps that are
Yes,
covering boats or
boats.
grills or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just tried to pick a few that
Mhm.
to me would be less obvious to look in.
Our last question. So let's say I'm having a mosquito problem, but I am concerned about calling you out there because 1, you might charge me to come out, or 2, you might fine me if you find that I do have mosquito breeding places.
Our job in the county, we're part of our county here. This is part of our maintenance for our county, is to keep everyone safe. We're not pest control. We don't come out for things other than mosquitoes, because we're there for the health that mosquitoes breed diseases. So that's our goal, is to be out there to make sure that our residents are kept safe from the diseases that mosquitoes carry.
So you won't come out for no-see-ums.
Yeah, no, we don't go out for no-see-ums, unfortunately. They're just plain nuisances. And mosquito, the things we use for mosquitoes do not even work on the no-see-ums. They're just too small. I wish it did.
You represent public health,
Yes.
not public annoyance, unfortunately.
correct.
Yes.
So there is no charge. So if you call, we'll send the technician. We're really pretty quick. We usually try to get out there the same day, if not next day. We get out there, we try to find the source. Once we find the source, sometimes we'll explain to the homeowner, this is where it's coming from. This is where you want to look first before you need to call us again. Because sometimes it's right there, you didn't know it was there. But no, we don't charge for our services. The most important thing is to call us, to let's get out there and knock these mosquitoes down before they keep multiplying.
Okay, so if I have a pile of tires there, you're not going to fine me for that?
Well, they really need to be covered. So we'll show you either to cover it or put them in a garage. We're not gonna, our main goal is to keep everyone healthy. So if you have a large pile of tires, cover them, bring them to the landfill. Like I said, they do take 8 a year. We do our tire week.
Amnesty.
Tire Amnesty Day once a year. We've been doing that for the last few years, and that's a good way to get rid of bulk tires if you have even more. But in the meantime, try not to collect them. Just bring them up to the landfill every year or as you remove them. If you're going to hold on to some, you have a plan for them, keep them covered, keep them in a garage so that you don't get that
I'll
hazard.
just let the shop that changes my tires keep the tires and
There
do
you
what they
go.
do
There
with
you
them. Okay, that is the end. That was not too
Thank you.
painful. Here is our contact information. If you want to get a hold of Karen or anyone at Hernando County Mosquito Control, here's their website. Also their phone number, 352-540-6552. Or you can always email Karen at kmojica@hernandocounty.us. And if you have any questions for me or for Hernando, Florida Friendly Landscaping, Hernando County Utilities, my direct line is 352-540-6230. Or the easiest way to contact me is always through email at LillyB, LILLY, 2 L's in the middle, B @hernandocounty.us. Thank you very much, Karen, for
Thank you.
coming by
Thank you.
my office here and answering my 10 questions. They weren't too hard.
They weren't hard.
And I find mosquito control very interesting because we think, oh, all they do is come out and spray for mosquitoes, and that is not at all. There's always a whole lot of work going on and a whole lot of things they can do without ever using a chemical that will keep us safe and us healthy. So thank you, and thank you
Thank you.
everyone at your office for the great work that you do for us. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.